He gave his all to his family, but then life hit hard. Daniel lost his job. His wife, Lisa, called him a failure and walked out with her head high. She chased after a richer man and a so-called easy life. But what happens when a man she left behind becomes the one she can't even reach anymore? This isn't just a story about love and betrayal. It's about grace, growth, and a comeback that shuts every mouth that once laughed. You won't believe how this ends. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch till the end. The alarm went off at 5 a.m. like always. But this morning felt different. Daniel sat up slowly on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor in silence. His wife Lisa rolled over and sighed loudly, clearly annoyed by the sound. "You're not even going to work today?" she mumbled. Daniel didn't answer. What could he say? Just 2 days ago, after 12 loyal years at his engineering job, they called him into the office and handed him a brown envelope. Downsizing. Cost-cutting. Thank you for your service. That's all they said. Now he was jobless at 42, with 2 daughters and a wife who suddenly looked at him like he was nothing. He turned to her and said quietly, "Good morning." Lisa didn't reply. She tied her scarf and walked out of the room. Moments later, their youngest daughter, Maya, just 6 years old, ran in holding her teddy bear. "Daddy, are you not going to work today?" Daniel forced a smile and picked her up onto his lap. "No, princess. Daddy's staying home with you today." "Yay!" she shouted, wrapping her arms around him. It was the only joy Daniel felt all morning. By noon, Lisa had already made 2 phone calls. One was to her friend Sandra, who always had something to say. The second was to her mom. "I can't stay here and suffer with a man who can't provide," she said loudly from the kitchen, making sure Daniel could hear. He heard every word. That night, the house felt cold, not from the weather, but from the silence. Lisa barely looked at him. She served food for herself, but ignored Daniel and the girls. It hurt, but he said nothing. The next morning, Lisa stood by the door with 2 bags packed. Leah and Maya sat on the couch, confused. "Where are you going?" Daniel asked as he stepped into the living room in his tank top and old trousers. "I'm going somewhere I'll be respected," she said. "Not this place where dreams go to die." "You're leaving your daughters behind?" "They'll be fine with you," Lisa snapped. "Leah is old enough to watch the little one. They're girls. They'll survive." Maya got up and walked her mother. "Mommy, I want to go with you," she whispered. Lisa didn't even turn back. "You'll thank me later," she said, walking out without hugging either of them. The door slammed. Just like that, Daniel was alone with 2 daughters and a silence that filled the whole apartment. He didn't cry, not in front of them. He held them close, kissed their heads, and whispered, "Daddy's going to be okay. You'll see." But deep inside, he wasn't sure. That night, Daniel sat outside the small rented home. His thoughts were heavy. His hands shook as he scrolled through his phone. Then he saw Lisa's Instagram post. She was in a new city, wearing sunglasses, luggage beside her. The caption said, "New beginnings." Friends had already started commenting. "Soft girl era. You made the right choice. Proud of you, sis." Daniel locked his phone. It was just him now. Him and 2 little girls who held on to him like he was all they had. The house didn't feel the same after that door slammed shut. Daniel sat in the living room. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, making long shadows across the floor. Leah was still sitting where she had been when her mother walked out. Quiet, still, just staring at the door. Maya had cried herself to sleep on Daniel's lap. Her little chest rose and fell softly. Daniel hadn't moved for hours. He couldn't. He just sat there, arms wrapped around his girls, blinking slowly. He couldn't believe this was real, not after everything. He kept playing Lisa's last words over and over again in his head. Lisa's voice had cut through him like a knife. "I'm going somewhere I'll be respected. Not this place where dreams die," she had said. She looked Daniel straight in the eye and still walked out, leaving Leah and Maya like they didn't matter. Even when little Maya begged to go with her, Lisa didn't blink. Now, the silence in the house was louder than any shouting. Daniel had no money, no job, and no idea what tomorrow would bring. But he still had Leah and Maya, and he made up his mind to protect them with whatever strength he had left. The next week was very hard. Daniel called old friends, hoping for work. Nothing. Most didn't even answer. One told him to hang in there. Another just said, "Sorry, bro, times are hard." So he started doing any job he could find, cleaning gutters, washing cars. Then he found a construction site not far from their apartment in Atlanta that needed workers. It paid $5 a day. Not much, but better than nothing. Each morning, he packed small bags of rice and cooking oil for Leah to cook after school. He bathed Maya, combed her hair, then walked both girls to school before heading to work. By 10 a.m., the sun was already burning hot. By 3 p.m., his shirt was soaked in sweat. Cement dust stuck to his skin. His hands, once smooth from office work, were now rough, full of blisters and cuts. Most days, he didn't eat until night. Still, he never complained. Meanwhile, Lisa was living the dream life she had always wanted. Tony, the rich man she ran to, was wealthy, flashy, and generous. He spoiled her with gifts and trips. Within weeks, they were in the Bahamas, drinking cocktails by the beach. Lisa's skin glowed, her nails were always perfect, and her loud laugh filled her Instagram stories. She posted everything. Matching outfits with Tony on a yacht. Dinner at a floating restaurant in Hawaii. A hotel room with rose petals on the bed. Captions like, "This is what peace looks like. New life, who this?" Her followers cheered her on. "Hot girl era. Your ex must be suffering right now." But Daniel wasn't suffering. He was surviving. He bathed his daughters each night. Washed their school uniforms by hand. Taught Leah math after dinner. Some nights, Maya would fall asleep on his chest, and he'd softly hum lullabies so she wouldn't ask hard questions. They didn't have a generator anymore. He sold it to pay for Maya's hospital tests when she had a fever. They used candles and rechargeable lamps. He turned off the fridge to save power. He walked instead of using a bike. But every time he looked at his daughters, he knew one thing. They were worth it. Far away, Lisa didn't know that the world she had built was standing on lies. Because Tony, the perfect man, had big secrets. Secrets that would destroy her dream life like a house made of cards. And when that day came, she'd wish she never left. Daniel woke before the sun, body aching like he'd been beaten. He didn't need an alarm anymore. Hunger woke him. He got up quietly, so he wouldn't wake Leah or Maya. He stepped outside and squatted by a bowl of water to bathe. There had been no running water for days. The girls didn't complain. They had gotten used to the silence. By 7 a.m., he had dropped them at school and was walking to the construction site. His shirt stuck to his back. The same old brown trousers he wore yesterday were now stiff from cement dust. But he didn't care. He was surviving. At the site, the foreman shouted orders. Daniel joined the other men, unloading heavy cement blocks. Each block felt like it would break his back. His hands had started tearing open. Blisters popped every time he gripped. By noon, sweat ran down his face like tears. His legs shook, but he didn't stop. Some workers laughed at him behind his back. "See how the mighty have fallen," one said. "Even big men day suffer now," another joked. Daniel heard it. He always did, but he said nothing. People around that neighborhood knew him. He used to drive a car, wear clean shirts, and pay his kids' school fees in full. Now, he carried blocks for money and begged the neighbor for food on credit. One day, while he was mixing cement in the corner, from the corner, he heard someone call out, "Daniel." He turned. It was Brian, an old co-worker from his office days. Brian stood there, shocked, wearing a clean white shirt and holding his phone. "Is this really you?" he asked. Daniel gave a small smile. "Yes, it's me." He could see Brian trying to hide his surprise, but he couldn't. Before Daniel could say anything, Brian had taken a picture, pretending to be checking WhatsApp. Daniel quickly turned away, his skin burning with shame, worse than the sun. That evening, he got home and found Leah struggling to light the charcoal stove outside. Inside, Maya was coughing. She was wrapped in a wrapper and lying on the floor. The heat from the day still filled the room, but her body felt cold. He touched her head. She was burning up. Daniel took a deep breath and opened his wallet. Only $1.80 left. He had to choose food or medicine. He chose the medicine. Leah didn't complain when he gave her and Maya just plain porridge for dinner. "Daddy, are you not eating?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "I ate at work." That was a lie. He hadn't eaten all day. Later that night, After the girls had fallen asleep, Daniel stepped outside and sat on the cement blocks near the door. He stared into the dark, head down. He wanted to scream, break something, ask God why. But he didn't. He just cried, quietly, tears falling on his dusty hands. Was he a failure? Why did she leave him when he needed her the most? He wiped his face and stood to go back inside. Then Leah came out, holding a folded piece of paper. "I made this in school," she said, handing it to him. It was a drawing of a man holding hands with two smiling girls. At the top, she had written, "My daddy is my hero." Daniel stared at the paper. Something broke in him, and something was built back up at the same time. He picked her up and held her tight. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for not leaving me." She nodded against his chest. Inside, Maya turned in her sleep and mumbled, "Daddy." Daniel smiled through his tears. He was bruised, broken, barely breathing, but he was still standing. And soon, the world would remember his name. The day Maya coughed up blood into her hand, Daniel panicked. He rushed her to the local clinic, holding her close like something that might break. The doctor said it was a throat infection made worse by dust and no clean water. She got a shot and was given antibiotics. She needs proper rest, clean water, and fruit, the doctor said. Daniel left the clinic with a folded prescription, an empty wallet, and a heavy heart. That evening, he sat on the floor, watching Leah fan Maya to sleep. The rechargeable lamp flickered. Shadows moved on the wall. Everything felt heavy. He leaned back and made a decision. He was going to find Lisa. Not to fight. Not for pride. But for the girls. The children she walked away from without looking back. He picked up his phone and scrolled to a number he hadn't called in months. Sandra, Lisa's closest friend. He dialed. "Daniel," she said, surprised. "I need a favor," he said calmly. "Please just give me her address. I'm not going to fight. I just want to talk for the kids." There was a long pause. "You sure this is a good idea?" "I'm not sure of anything anymore," he said. "But my girls deserve a mother. That's all I'm asking." Sandra didn't speak again. Then, softly, she said, "I'll text it to you. Don't say it came from me." The call ended. Seconds later, a message came in. "Block C, Flat 2B, Royal Estate." The next morning, Daniel wore his cleanest shirt. He washed his face twice, combed his hair, and sprayed a little perfume he'd been saving from a birthday gift 3 years ago. He borrowed $2.50 for transport and used another $1 to buy a small fruit basket. He wanted to come with peace. Royal Estate was quiet, clean, too clean. The security guard looked at him funny, but when Daniel mentioned Lisa's name, he let him in. "Block C, Flat 2B. Daniel stood in front of the door, hand shaking slightly as he knocked. He held the fruit basket tightly, like it was the last piece of pride he had. Then the door opened, and there she was, Lisa. Her hair was perfect. She wore a shiny silk robe. It shimmered in the light. A wine glass was in her hand. She looked like someone who had never struggled a day in her life. She blinked in shock. "Daniel?" He cleared his throat. "Hi, Lisa. Please, can I talk to you?" Her eyes narrowed. "How did you find me?" "I just need 5 minutes," he said, his voice quiet. "It's about Leah and Maya. They miss you. Maya's sick. I can't do this alone." Before she could reply, a deep male voice came from inside. "Babe, who's that?" Then he walked in, tall, muscular, no shirt, holding a drink, adjusting a gold chain. He walked up behind Lisa and wrapped an arm around her waist. Daniel stared. His grip on the fruit basket loosened. It almost fell. The man looked him over. "You good?" Lisa looked at Daniel and said coldly, "He was just leaving." Daniel stood there for one more second, just one. Then he nodded, said nothing, and walked away. The sun outside felt cruel. He didn't look back. He didn't cry. He just kept walking. The fruit basket swung at his side. That evening, when he got home, Leah was bathing Maya with warm water. They both looked up as he entered. He forced a smile. Leah didn't ask any questions. Daniel went to the corner of the room and sat down. Then he whispered to himself, "She's gone." He took a deep breath and said quietly, "Now it's just us, and we're going to win, no matter what." The sun was burning hot that afternoon. Daniel's shirt stuck to his back, soaked in sweat and dust from work. He carried a plastic bag with tomatoes and onions, dinner for his girls. His steps were slow, heavy, and tired. As he crossed the street near their place, a black SUV pulled up beside him. The windows were dark. The engine hummed loud. Then the window rolled down. A voice scoffed, "Is that Daniel?" He turned. It was Lisa. She was in the front seat, sunglasses on, music playing softly. Her nails sparkled. Her skin glowed. Her lips curled into a cruel smile. "Well, well," she said, stepping out. "Look who's walking under the sun like a market man." Daniel stood still, holding his bag tightly. Lisa walked around him slowly, like she was looking at a broken statue. "This is your life now," she laughed. "So you weren't even pretending when you begged me at the estate." Daniel said nothing. She leaned in close, her voice sharp. "Look at you. No car, no job, no respect. Thank God I left. I'd be on this street frying plantains if I stayed." She stepped back and looked him over again. "You're not a man. You're a memory. A bad one." Daniel turned away quietly. As he walked, her voice followed him like a whip. "Loser. You're not a man. You're a lesson." He didn't look back. Not even once. 2 days later, the scene was totally different. Lisa sat in an airport lounge, sipping champagne. Tony was beside her, wearing designer sunglasses, holding her like a trophy. Her social media was on fire. "Mauritius loading," she posted. "My man said, pack your bags. We're leaving this stress behind." She posted a video of herself in a red bikini by the beach, sipping coconut juice. Another showed her at a 5-star restaurant with an ocean view. "Soft life only. If I stayed with him, I'd still be boiling water with firewood." Comments came in. "You're glowing, sis. Your ex must be crying right now. This is what winning looks like." But nobody mentioned the 2 little girls she left behind. Nobody asked if she ever looked back. Back in Atlanta, Daniel sat outside, fanning Maya gently. She had finished her last dose of medicine, but needed more. He opened his wallet, 3 crumpled $1 bills and a few coins. He sighed and looked up at the sky. Leah came out holding a paper from school. "Daddy, they said we need to pay 3,500 Nigerian nairas for a school project." He looked at her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out that folded drawing. The one Leah made. The one that said, "My daddy is my hero." He pressed the paper to his chest. "I'm not a loser," he whispered. "I'm a father. And I'm not done." He picked up his phone. Tomorrow, he'd call a man at the site, someone who once mentioned needing help with deliveries. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Some people drive around and laugh at others. Some walk their way to redemption. That night, Daniel sat in the corner of the room, watching Maya sleep on the mat beside him. The air was hot. The room was quiet. Leah was reading by the rechargeable lamp. Her back was bent, her eyes tired. They had no more medicine. The fever had gone, but the sickness could come back. Daniel counted the coins in his pocket again. Not enough for more medicine. His eyes drifted to the drawing. "My daddy is my hero." Something moved in his chest. He picked up his phone and searched for a number. Mr. Joe, the site foreman. His thumb hovered over the call button. He hadn't spoken to the man in weeks. But he remembered something. Someone at the site had mentioned a building supply store that needed help. Daniel took a breath and pressed call. The phone rang, then connected. "Hello, good evening, sir. It's Daniel from the site." "Oh, Daniel. How you doing?" "I'm managing, sir. I wanted to ask. You mentioned someone needed a store assistant." There was a pause. "You still need work?" "Yes, sir. Anything. I'm ready." Another pause. "Come to Mr. Harris's depot tomorrow morning. He asked for someone reliable." I gave him your name. Daniel blinked. "You did. You never gave me problems. Even when others did, I noticed. Go early." Daniel's hand held the phone tight. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." The next morning, Daniel got dressed carefully. He had washed his best shirt the night before and ironed it using a pot of hot water. Leah helped shine his shoes with a piece of sponge. Maya watched from the mat, her face full of hope. Before he left, he hugged them both tightly. "Pray for Daddy," he said. Leah nodded. "God will help you. I already told him." At the depot, a young boy led him into a small office. Behind the desk sat a man in his 50s, stocky and serious, reading a file. "You're Daniel?" "Yes, sir." "Sit down." Daniel sat, back straight, hands sweating. The man asked one question. "Can I trust you?" Daniel didn't talk too much. He said simply, "I have 2 daughters. I worked in offices. I've carried blocks. But I've never stolen. I won't start now." The man nodded slowly. You start tomorrow. 2-week probation. $45 a week. If I hear good things, you stay. Daniel stood up and gave a small bow. Thank you, sir. That evening, he came home with 2 meat pies and a cold drink. Leah ran to the door, eyes wide. Daddy. He gave the snacks to her and Maya. What happened? She asked. I start work tomorrow, he said softly, smiling. Maya clapped. Yay. They all sat on the mat, eating slowly, like the food was gold. For the first time in a long while, there was laughter in the house. Thousands of miles away in Mauritius, Lisa was on a yacht with Tony. Her skin glowed under the sun. A waiter poured her champagne. She posed for a photo, feet in a pool of rose petals. She posted it right away. If I stayed with him, I'd still be boiling water with firewood. Soft life activated. But behind that perfect picture, something felt wrong. Tony had been disappearing for hours. She checked his wallet while he showered and found a receipt for 2 rings. But she had only seen one. She didn't say anything, but her heart skipped. Something fell off. Back in Atlanta, Daniel sat under the stars. Leah came out and sat beside him. You're starting to smile again, she said softly. He looked at her and replied, It's the beginning of something. I don't know what yet, but I feel it. And in that quiet moment, something inside him shifted. A promise to never go back. At the depot, things were busy. Wheelbarrows moved. Cement bags stacked high. Drivers honked outside. Right in the middle stood Daniel, clipboard in hand, sweat on his brow, but his face calm and proud. Daniel's face looked calm and sure. He had become the heartbeat of the depot. Customers asked for him. Workers respected him. Mr. Harris had extended his probation and even increased his pay before the 2 weeks were over. You run this place like it's yours, Mr. Harris said one afternoon. Next month, I'm making you the depot supervisor. Daniel bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you. And he meant it. Each evening, he came home with something different. Yams, soap, snacks, or sometimes grilled meat for the girls. The light in Leah's eyes had returned. Maya laughed more now. Life still wasn't perfect, but it was no longer hopeless. One hot afternoon, as Daniel checked delivery records, a familiar voice came from behind him. Excuse me, I'm looking for... The voice stopped. Daniel turned around. It was Sandra, Lisa's friend, the one who gave him Lisa's address weeks ago. She froze, her mouth slightly open, sunglasses on her head, fanning herself slowly. Daniel. He gave a small nod. Good afternoon, Sandra. She blinked like she had seen a ghost. My goodness. You work here? He nodded again. Yes. I'm a supervisor now. Sandra looked around. She saw how the workers obeyed him. She saw the clean records on the desk, the neat polo shirt with the depot's logo, the pen clipped to his chest. This wasn't the same man who had once begged at Lisa's gate. This man was different. Wow, she said softly. You look good, strong. Daniel smiled faintly. God is helping us. She paused, then added, she wouldn't believe this. Not in a million years. Daniel didn't ask who she meant. He turned and gave an instruction to one of the boys unloading sandbags. His voice steadied his back straight. Sandra watched him for a few more seconds, then walked away, but not before she secretly snapped a photo of him from behind. That evening, Sandra was at Lisa's apartment, sipping wine and scrolling through her phone gallery. You won't believe who I ran into today, she said casually. Lisa rolled her eyes. If it's about one of your exes again. No, it's about yours. Lisa froze. What? Daniel. I saw him today. Lisa burst out laughing. And what was he doing? Selling plantains on the roadside? Sandra shook her head. He's a depot supervisor. A big building supply depot. Clean. Organized. He was giving orders like a boss. Lisa's laughter slowed. Supervisor? She scoffed. Please. It's probably one small kiosk he's managing. I'm serious, Lisa. I was shocked. He looks different. Like a real man now. Lisa waved her off, but her hands trembled slightly. That night, long after Sandra had left, Lisa sat alone in the dark. She scrolled through her phone. She opened the photo Sandra had sent. Daniel standing tall, clipboard in hand, workers all around him. He was smiling. Not a tired, forced smile, but a confident one. She stared for a long time. Her heart beat faster. No, she whispered to herself. No, it can't be. Meanwhile, back at home, Daniel was helping Maya brush her teeth. Leah folded her uniform for school. The light bulb flickered, but the room felt warm. Later, when the girls slept, Daniel opened his Bible and quietly prayed. Thank you for bringing us this far. I'm still low, but I know you're not done. Upstairs in the luxury flat, paid for by another man, Lisa was no longer smiling. Her fingers hovered over her phone. She didn't dial. She just stared at the screen, wondering if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Lisa stood in front of the mirror, frowning. Tony hadn't said much to her in 3 days. He now slept in the guest room. He claimed to be busy at work. He always kept his second phone face down when she was near. His voice had changed too. Short, cold, defensive. Why are you always in my space? He snapped that morning when she asked if he was okay. You think this house is yours? That was the 3rd time he had snapped at her that week. She stared at the untouched breakfast she made him. Later that day, she found a receipt in one of his jacket pockets while doing laundry. It read, Laser one-night suite, paid 92,000 Nigerian nairas, dated 2 days ago. Lisa's stomach twisted. Tony had told her he was on a business trip in Abeokuta. She didn't say anything, but the silence inside her was screaming. What she didn't know was this. Tony's wife had just returned to Nigeria after 3 months abroad with their kids. She came back to a shocking message from the estate guard. Madam, another woman has been living in your house since you left. The wife didn't yell. She didn't cry. She picked up her phone, called 2 of her closest friends, and made a plan. The next day, Lisa was in the living room wearing Tony's robe, painting her nails, when the front door burst open. 3 women stormed in. Where is she? One shouted. Lisa barely stood up before the first slap hit. Are you crazy? You came into my house and acted like Queen Mother. Her wig was snatched off. A broom hit her back. Slippers flew at her. She screamed. Tony ran out of the bathroom in a towel, confused. His wife turned to him and threw his phone against the wall. You brought shame to this house. Today, both of you are leaving with the same disgrace. Neighbors gathered. Phones were recording. Videos were uploading. Lisa, now barefoot, was dragged out by the arm and thrown out the gate. Her designer bag was tossed after her. Tony was next. His clothes were thrown down from the upstairs balcony, scattered across the yard. Come and carry your man, the wife shouted to Lisa. But not in my house. The gate slammed shut. The lock clicked. The crowd cheered. Lisa called the only person she could think of, Sandra. By the time she arrived at Sandra's house, her face was swollen, her voice and her pride buried in dust. Sandra opened the door, shocked. What happened to you? Lisa dropped onto the couch. Please let me stay here, just for a few days. Sandra didn't ask many questions. She just sighed and pointed toward the guest room. No noise, no drama, just rest. Lisa nodded slowly, but inside, regret was clawing at her chest. Back in town, Daniel was signing deals. Mr. Harris had promoted him to assistant depot manager. He now handled both inventory and cash. Customers asked for him by name. Other branches called him for advice. He bought Leah new shoes for school. He surprised Maya with a mattress and standing fan. They squealed and danced around the room. Even Mrs. Rose, the neighbor who once fed them on credit, received a brown envelope quietly from him, along with a soft thank you. Daniel still wore his old wristwatch, still took bikes to work, still knelt to pray each night. But everything about him had changed. He now walked with pride. He smiled with peace. And most of all, he had nothing left to prove. Back at Sandra's place, Lisa sat by the window, watching night crawl in. Her phone buzzed. It was a video, her being beaten. Someone had posted it on TikTok. Caption, side chick breakfast. She moved in, but the wife came back. She turned off her phone and buried her face in the pillow. Outside, the world was laughing. Inside, her soul was silent. It was a quiet Monday morning when Daniel was called into Mr. Harris's office. He thought it was about the stock report, notebook in hand, pen in his shirt pocket. But when he entered, Mr. Harris sat calmly behind the desk, hands clasped, a faint smile on his face, the kind that meant something big. Daniel, he said, pointing to the chair. Sit. Daniel sat, confused. I won't waste your time, Mr. Harris said. "You've been more than a worker to me. You've carried this depot like it's yours. You brought order where there was confusion. And more than that, you reminded me what honesty looks like." Daniel nodded, still unsure what was going on. "I'm relocating," Mr. Harris said finally. "My wife and I are moving to Canada. It's been in the works for months." Daniel blinked. "Wow. Congratulations, sir." "Thank you," Mr. Harris replied. "And that's why I called you. I've decided I'm handing the entire business over to you." Daniel stared, shocked. "Sir, the 2 branches, the staff, even the company vehicles." Mr. Harris smiled wider. "And the house in Lecky Phase 1, it's yours now." Daniel couldn't speak. "I've signed all the papers," Mr. Harris said. "It's all yours, free and clear. You earned it." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't even know what to say." "Then don't say anything," Mr. Harris replied. "Just keep doing what you've always done. Take care of your daughters. Take care of the name you've built." Daniel stood up and shook his hand with both palms. In that moment, he wasn't just a man who had been helped. He was a man who had risen. 2 weeks later, Daniel stood in the compound of a beautiful 5-bedroom house. Leah ran down the hallway shouting, "Daddy, there's a bathtub." Maya jumped on the big bed, laughing. The fridge was full. The lights were always on. There was AC in every room. That night, as they ate at the dining table for the first time, Maya looked up and asked, "Daddy, are we rich now?" Daniel smiled. "No, sweetheart. We're blessed. And we're not going back." Meanwhile, across town, tension was building in Sandra's apartment. Lisa had been staying there for almost 3 weeks. She didn't cry anymore. She slept until noon, scrolled through her phone, ate food without asking, acted like the place was hers. Sandra didn't complain at first, but things had changed. Lisa left dirty plates in the sink, ignored house chores, took long phone calls late at night. Sandra's patience was wearing thin. One evening, Sandra came home from work and found Lisa cooking jollof rice with her last can of tomatoes. She hadn't asked for permission. Sandra said nothing, but the silence was loud. Later that night, on the phone with her cousin, Sandra sighed and said, "I don't know how to send her away. I pity her, yes, but she's overstayed. She's draining me." Lisa overheard the call from the hallway. Her heart sank. She went back to the guest room, sat on the bed, and stared at the wall. Her pride wouldn't let her admit it, but she knew what was coming. 3 days later, Sandra called her into the living room. "Lisa, I've been patient, but I think it's time you go." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "Please, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm sorry, but you need to figure that out. I can't keep carrying your weight. You have 3 days." Lisa nodded slowly. She packed her things in silence. That night, Daniel stood outside his mansion, holding a cold glass of water. Leah and Maya were inside, watching TV under soft blankets. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, God, for this second chance." Meanwhile, Lisa sat on a couch in Sandra's guest room. She held her head in her hands. No home, no man, no plan. Only one door left to knock on, the same one she had slammed shut. Lisa stood in front of Daniel's old apartment, the one she left like trash. Her clothes were wrinkled. Her feet ached. Her hope was small. She knocked on the gate, expecting to hear his voice. But instead, a young man opened and looked at her with confusion. "Yes, I'm looking for Daniel," she said weakly. "Oh, the man who used to live here? He moved out long ago. Big man now. Owns his own business. I heard he lives in Lecky now. Mansion and all." Lisa's eyes widened. Do you know the address?" The man's wife overheard and came out. After a few questions, they gave her the location. She thanked them, holding back tears. 2 hours later, she stood at the black gate of a mansion in Lecky. It was tall, shiny, and clean. The compound was quiet and neat. A gardener was watering flowers. A car engine hummed behind the gate. She hesitated, then knocked. The gate man came out, surprised by her rough look. "I'm here to see Daniel," she said. He narrowed his eyes. "Who should I say is asking?" "Lisa." He nodded slowly. "Wait here." Inside, Daniel stood in the living room, checking a guest list on his phone. His fiancée, a graceful, well-dressed woman, stood beside him, arranging fabric for their engagement. Leah and Maya were in the kitchen, laughing as they tasted wedding cake samples. Then the gate man entered. "Sir, a woman is at the gate." She said her name is Lisa. Daniel's hand froze. He took a deep breath. "Let her in." The first step Lisa took into the compound felt like a dream. Landscape flowers, marble floors, the smell of clean polish. She looked up and froze. Daniel stood on the front porch, calm as ever. He wore a white linen shirt and black trousers. Beside him stood a stunning woman, his fiancée, holding his hand gently. On each side of them stood Leah and Maya, both glowing, both confident, both proud. Lisa's knees shook. "Daniel," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "Please, I've lost everything. Sandra kicked me out. I came to say sorry. Please forgive me. I don't even want much, just a chance to breathe." Daniel looked at her for a long time. His daughters watched silently. His fiancée didn't even blink. "Lisa," he said calmly, "I forgave you a long time ago, but I've moved on. I'm getting married." Lisa gasped. "So you're not alone?" "No, I'm not alone. I'm loved, and I'm respected." Lisa looked at the woman beside him. She was beautiful, confident, peaceful. Lisa's knees gave out. She dropped to the floor. Please, I'm begging." Daniel didn't move. "Stand up. You still have some dignity left. Don't lose all of it." Lisa stood, shaky, broken. Daniel continued. "I'll give you a little cash to help you start again. But that's all. You made your choice. I made mine. We're not the same people anymore." His fiancée gently squeezed his hand. Daniel turned to the gate man. "Give her food and a small envelope. Then let her go." Lisa opened her mouth to speak again, but nothing came out. She looked at Leah, then Maya, then back at Daniel. Quietly, she turned and walked away. The gate closed behind her, and the door she once slammed in pride. It stayed shut forever.